All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Leah with Sense Financial, and welcome to our webinar. It's really great to see everyone here. And for today's webinar, I'm here with our speaker, Brett, as well as a very special guest we will introduce later in our presentation. I see that we have people joining us from Riverside, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Facebook. So for those of you who are here on YouTube and Riverside, as well as Facebook, go ahead and type up your comments in our chat box or in the live chat on your right. However, if you're here from LinkedIn, I would encourage you to join us here on Riverside, and I'll pop up a text on the screen for our link. If you join us here live, you'll be able to join our Q&A session, so please go ahead and do that. While we wait for more people to come in, Brad, anything that you'd like to add before we start?
Yes, thank you everybody for jumping in today. Appreciate it. And definitely, like Leah said, if you can join us on Riverside here so you can engage more effectively with us and ask us questions in the chat and such. Encourage you to add your questions to the chat before you forget about them. So just when you think of it, just type it in real quick. We promise to give time at the end for frequently asked questions and also for just any questions that come in as well. And yeah, just want to thank you all for being here. So let's give it just another minute or so while people are working on figuring out how to hop in. More people, I should say.
All right, I'll just start the introduction.
Go for it.
And so, welcome everyone to our webinar. Welcome to our webinar, Learning to Live and Gain True Freedom with Alvin Lee. So my name is Leah with Sense Financial, and we are a boutique financial firm specializing in self-directed retirement accounts with checkbook control. Our presenter today is Brad Sinicki, and I briefly want to introduce Brad. He is a solo 401k and SDIRA consultant here at Sense Financial. He has a professional journey spanning over 18 years in real estate investing, and Brad is also a licensed California real estate agent, and his passion lies in empowering people to attain financial independence, affording them the possibility of an early retirement. So thank you so much, Brad, for joining us today, as well as Alvin, and I'll let you both take it from here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Leah. Really appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I think my passion in helping people to save for retirement and retire with dignity ultimately, and have that some freedom financially, preferably before retirement age, but definitely by retirement age, is going to line up really well with what we're going to talk about today. And so I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about what we do here at Sense Financial, and then I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker here because that's who you really want to hear from. And he's going to cover more about how to specifically not only use your retirement funds to invest in alternative assets like private lending, but also you could even do it with your personal funds as well. And so he'll discuss that more. But before we get into that, I'm going to talk about Sense Financial a little bit here. And you already heard who I am. Just a quick disclosure. We're not a fiduciary. We don't provide legal, tax, investment, or accounting advice. If you need such advice, please seek out the proper professional. If you don't have a CPA who understands what you think you need to talk about, like a self-directed retirement account, we definitely can help out with a referral of some sort. So just let us know. Sense Financial is a boutique firm, as Leah was mentioning, and we specialize in two things, actually: checkbook IRA and solo 401k. And because of that, we're able to provide those services at a very high level. And we've been in business since 2010, so we're well past the startup phase, well established. We have clients that have given us 5-star reviews all over the place. You can check those out yourself. And actually, I need to update these numbers because we currently have over 5,000 clients, and we've set up well over 6,000 different types of self-directed retirement plans. Most of our clients come from referrals. So, and actually, most of those referrals come from existing clients. So that's a testament, I think, to the level of service we get, the satisfaction that our clients have, because they send people back to us all the time, friends, family, colleagues, etc. So the benefits of the checkbook IRA, also known as a self-directed IRA, and the solo 401k are as follows. With our plans, they allow you to invest in alternative assets, which of course gives you that ability to have true diversification, right? If you have your money in the stock market, or let's call it at Vanguard or Fidelity or in your employer sponsored 401k, you're going to be limited to what that plan offers, or you're going to be limited to what that brokerage offers. Fidelity will allow you to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. That may change in the future. Trump just signed something a couple weeks ago that says, hey, now everybody should have the option to invest in alternative assets. I will say we're probably a ways away from that happening kind of across the board with the major brokerages because they're so entrenched into Wall Street, but we'll see where that goes. For right now, the only way to invest in alternative assets with a true retirement account is through a checkbook IRA or an individual 401k plan. They can be tax deferred, traditional, or Roth. The solo 401k actually has both built in. The IRA is either a Roth IRA or it's a traditional IRA, but you can have both. They're just two separate plans. You can get a loan. So if you wanted to invest in a rental property, for example, using your IRA or 401k, you can get a loan that's called a non-recourse loan, which essentially just means you're not providing a personal guarantee. The property is the only security for the loan, but you can borrow money to buy more real estate. I would ask you a question from a paradigm perspective. When's the last time somebody offered to loan you money to buy more S&P 500 stock? I'm sure you could trade on margin and that sort of thing, but that's not the same thing that we're talking about here. So just another benefit to alternative asset investing. And the checkbook control thing I just want to touch on real briefly is a way to invest without having to go through a custodian for anything. So we simply help you not only establish the plan, but also open a checking account, which is the home for the funds until they're deployed into an investment. And you control that checking account. And so, excuse me, when you want to invest in something, you simply do a wire transfer, write a check, or online bill pay, I suppose. But it's up to you on to how you get the money in there and how much. You can sign on the dotted line. You don't have to have a third party do any of that for you. There are other types of self-directed retirement accounts that don't have checkbook control, where you do have to go through the custodian for everything. We don't offer those at Sense Financial. And then the solo 401k, we call it in some ways the ultimate retirement plan, but we also call it the ultimate tax shelter as well, because you can contribute up to $77,500 per year, or at least in 2020, 2025. And that's per person, by the way. So if a husband and wife are participating in a solo 401k together, that you double that money. Okay. So you can really contribute a lot if your business that your self-employment is making enough, you can really contribute a lot. And again, that can be Roth or traditional. And this allows you to do virtually any investment option. Some common examples are private lending, cryptocurrency, precious metals, tax deeds. You can do lending unsecured. I don't recommend that. You can do, of course, secured lending, secured by real estate or office equipment or something else. If it's like a business loan of some sort, like an angel investor type loan, most of our clients are doing loans secured by real estate. But you have options with that. The plan, the 401k or IRA can actually own commercial real estate or residential real estate, and just almost, like I said, unlimited options. These are just some of the common ones. So it does provide true diversification. By the way, if you're in the stock market primarily or only, and you think you're diversified because you have money in the S&P 500 spread across the 500 wealthiest companies or strongest companies in the United States, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent you are, but think about it like this. That's all Wall Street, and you have no control over what Elon does with Tesla or what whoever's running Apple now does with Apple. Okay. I just read they're about to come out with a new Apple iPhone, by the way, the 17, which is wild. But how much more can it possibly change? I think they just keep improving the camera a little bit, but whatever. I digress. We don't control what those companies do. With self-directing, I can choose I can choose the investment. I can control the investment, right? You can't have personal use over anything because you're a disqualified party to the plan, but I can choose whether I loan 50,000 to Alvin for a private loan or to somebody else and what the property is and the terms. We can negotiate the terms. Like you just can't do that. And also when two people, I'm trying to challenge old school paradigms here. When two people sign on the dotted line, i.e., a tenant and a landlord, or a borrower and a lender, I know it's not a guarantee. I'm not going to use that word, but it's pretty close to a guaranteed return on your investment because they're agreeing to actually pay at certain intervals, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, yearly, balloon payment, no balloon payment, points up front, no points, whatever it looks like. And you just can't get that anywhere else without self directing. So if you want to truly unlock and control your retirement, you will set up some kind of self directed retirement account, whether it's an IRA or 401k. We can talk more about that, by the way. Feel free to jump over to our website to book a consultation and we'll talk more about your situation. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, divide your portion to 7 or even to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth. And that's so true, right? We had COVID, which was a little blip in the market and real estate, and then everything kind of shot through the roof. And then, of course, we had 2008 and 9, and a lot of people that were diversified with self-directed retirement accounts were not hurt like people that weren't. So, um, so anyway, just food for thought on that. All right. Now, I want to introduce our guest speaker, Alvin Lee. And Alvin is a private money lender, capital raiser, and funding strategist who helps people put their hard earned dollars to work through safe real estate backed investments. With experience as a real estate investor owning over 26 stores, Alvin is uniquely qualified to vet deals and underwrite opportunities to protect capital and ensure that it's never lost. His strategies empower clients to break free from the rat race, regain their time, and retire early. Alvin, thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. I'm going to stop my share and let you take over.
Thank you so much, Brett. Just wanted to say hi, everybody. I'm just like Brett introduced. I'm just a normal guy doing real estate, working through the W-2 and growing wealth passively through many different vehicles. But one of my favorite is private money lending and what I do for most people and help people get closer to that financial freedom, right? So we're going to go over what exactly private money lending is and how, break down any misconceptions, how we can do that safely, and hopefully answer any questions that anybody will have. So let me get this screen shared here and then put that up. So private money lending, the path to passive freedom. Now, if you're already in this webinar, you know the power of self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks, or hopefully are on your way to start one. And what Sense Financial has to offer here is amazing. I personally have both a solo 401k and a self-directed IRA with them. And I use this for everything that Brett talked about, tax savings, power to choose. That is so big. I love that you pointed on that, Brett, because ultimately, what is true power in life is the power to choose, the choice of where to put our funds, where to put our time, and where to spend our energy, right? When we work in a W-2 or in our jobs, our businesses, at some point, time is our limiting factor. Somebody once told me, if you think of a measuring tape of, the number of years that we have, the average human being probably lives to around 75 years old. So let's tear off that piece of tape and we're now at 75. Then where are you at in your current age? You're 35, you're 40. Let's tear off everything before that number. What's left on the tape is all the years that you have left, all the time that you have left. Anything beyond 75 is, good, but at that point, will you be in a healthy state to enjoy that? Are you going to be in your best state? And so you want to enjoy what you have between now and 75. So how do we maximize our time and how do we get our time back? How do we make our money work for us? Right. So what is private money lending? Private money lending is lending your money or other people's money or your self-directed IRA funds, any capital that you have access to to others. Now, I'm going to talk specifically about lending on real estate because that is the most secured way of doing things, in my opinion. Um, and we'll go into why that is. But these are loans secured by real estate and real collateral, properties that you can actually go out and touch and feel and go and evaluate if you needed to. These can be short term or longer term, depends on your particular preference, and it can be pretty high returns. It just depends on your position and your comfortability in where you want to lend and how you want to lend. Right. So, why do I like private money lending? What in your mind comes to mind when you're thinking about the two strongest industries in the world, right? In my mind, it's real estate. Real estate will always be around. We'll always have a need and a demand for real estate, right? Everybody will need a place to live. Businesses need properties to, physical locations to operate out of. So there will always be a demand for real estate. And on top of that, as a private money lender, you're now becoming the bank, right? So what does everybody do with their money? They put it into a bank, and then what does the bank do with those funds? They go and lend it out. In what way? In the forms of loans and mortgages. So by being a private money lender on real estate, we essentially become the bank. We are the bank. We write mortgages for real estate investors or people out there doing what they do best in real estate. Now, who uses this private money? It can be any sort of real estate investor, but it can be fix and flippers, buy and hold investors, developers, short-term rental operators, you name it. There's thousands of different real estate investment strategies. But in any investment strategy in real estate and any investment in general, what is involved? Money and an operator. So here, if we're trying to save our time, then we don't want to become the operator, but we are able to profit off of their knowledge and their expertise by being their private money lender. Just like Chase and Wells Fargo and all these banks will be when they lend funds to real estate investors out there doing what they do best. So how is this totally passive? Yes, there's some underwriting involved, some preparation and protections that we need to set up in the beginning. But once we've done that, our funds are there and we are secured by our loan, our assets, our protections that we have in place, which we'll cover in a bit. But we get to profit off of all these real estate investors without having to deal with the tenants, the toilets, or trash, all the troubles that go through it. Brett told you guys that I have a number of real estate doors myself, and right now I have a property where just the other day, no lie, my tenant's ceiling fell through because a pipe was leaking above them from the apartment above, right? So then I have to deal with sending in a plumber, sending in a drywall contractor. Then I have to repaint the walls for the downstairs and upstairs after everything is repaired. All that is great. Real estate is wonderful. There are lots of benefits to having real estate, but it does come with a time obligation and it does come with headaches, right? So but I dealt with all of those as an operator. My bank, the person that I pay my mortgage to, didn't have to deal with that, and every month they get paid. So when we're a private money lender, we become the bank that never has to deal with any of the trouble, and they get paid every single month, right? And we can get double digit double digit returns annualized on these investments because we become an easier avenue for investors to get money. There's just less red tape to jump through. Not to say that we're doing any less protections for ourselves, but it is easier from an investor standpoint to get it from a private money lender than from a bank who will go through numerous appraisals, underwriting, and then have this and that requirement, and then get to the finish line and still say, hey, you didn't meet this requirement and we're dropping the deal the day before the closing, right? So all that leads to what we're really after. It's not about the money, it's about true time freedom, right? Time and health are our most important assets in life. Time is always fleeting and is always counting down, as we talked about. And health, without health, then you can't enjoy the time that you have. So why does this matter, and how do we utilize our funds to get there? Um, Somebody once said, have you ever known an employee that works 24 hours a day, any day of the week? Does anybody know an employee that does that? No, right? People have to rest, people have to sleep. But I know somebody that works for me 24/7. His name is Benjamin. He's on my money, working for me as I sleep, when I'm on vacation, when I'm playing with my kids and spending my time how I dictate. They are working for me 24/7 because I'm making money, and with that money uh, every day. So that's how we break free from the rat race. We make our money, we then put that money to work and have that money work for us despite us whether we're working or not. And that's how you truly live life on your terms, right? So how does private money lending compare to the stock market or other investment strategies, right? When you put your money in the stock market, as Brett said, even if you're putting it in the S&P 500, let's first talk about typical returns. The average return is maybe anywhere from 8 to 10%, right? If you're lucky. But then you'll experience those years with big downfalls like COVID and 2008, where you'll have a crash and you might lose 20, 30% of your portfolio. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not always the one with diamond hands, right? So to be able to time the market on when you want to enter or exit, it gets very, um, can be quite scary, right? But the clear difference is when you invest in the stock market or in stocks in general, you're investing 100% of your money with zero guarantee, right? When you are a private money lender, you're lending on real estate that is secured by a real asset that traditionally has always gone up in value. Even in 2008, I had a neighbor who bought a house next to mine in 2008. I bought, 10 years later, but even 10 years later, now his home has surpassed his price that he bought at the very worst time when uh, the stock market had tanked, right? So real estate is secured not only by the asset, which you can physically go and touch and feel. Then on top of that, you have insurance. If I lent money on a real estate investor's property, I'm securing it by the home that they have, right? Let's use the example of a fix and flipper. If I lend money to John, he's flipping a home, taking a home that was dilapidated and now turning it into a nice modern upscale home to be sold for more. When I invested in it, it was worth less, and the property that will turn into something that is much more valuable. So not only is the property going up in value, which secures me, but I have insurance in case there's a fire or any other disaster to it. We have replacement costs that will replace it. And often, a lot of people think of fires in real estate as a bad thing. I've learned it's really a very good thing, because if it burns down, we're going to have money to replace it and it'll be brand new. You'll have an even better property than you once had. Whereas you might have been lending on a 1950s home, now you're going to have a brand new 2025 home. So really, you have insurance, you have documentations, you have guarantees, you have deeds of trust. We're going to cover all those documents. But the biggest thing is, like Brett said, the power to choose. You choose exactly what your return is going to be when you send out those funds on a private money loan. If you want 10% annualized returns, that's exactly what you lend on. If you want 12% annualized returns, that's exactly what you lend on. There's no guesswork involved. I put $100,000 in Tesla stock, it might go to very well 200,000, or it could go to 50,000, and I could lose 50% of my investment. But with real estate, doesn't matter as long as you're lending safely, and we'll talk about how to do that. You will be protected regardless of a downfall in the market or failure of the operator. You will always be protected. So that's the power to choose and the power of lending. So the documents to required to really lend safely. The number one thing that you have to do document wise is to get a promissory note. A promissory note is your IOU from the borrower. I'm lending you 50,000 at 10% annualized interest. These are your payment terms. You'll pay me this much on the first of every month at this and this term, and the maturity date is so and so. And that dictates the payment. Your deed of trust or your mortgage, depending on the state that you're in, they're synonymous. This is how we actually secure that promissory note. A promissory note on its own is great. That's an IOU from somebody. But if you have that piece of paper signed and nobody knows about it, the person that you lent money to can just sell that home and never pay you off. Where you have the deed of trust in real estate is you take that deed of trust, which is a recognition of the promissory note, and filed with the local county. So anytime a home is sold, it has to go through title and escrow, and title and escrow is going to check for lien history and all the necessary things in order to clear off that loan. So If John, my investor, wants to go sell a home without me, sorry, they're going to have to pay me off. First Title is going to say, hey, you have a loan owed to Alvin for 100,000. You need to pay him off before you can sell this home. And so that's where we get our protection. And we also have lender's title insurance. That's what protects us of any title errors. So as I said, when title, whether you're buying a home or selling a home, title has to do their proper due diligence to make sure that there are no liens on the property, that you're actually the one selling the property. There have been horror stories where the people that are selling the home don't really own the home. They could be the son or the daughter, same name, and they don't clear that. So when you have those title issues as a lender, the lender's title insurance protects us. It doesn't matter if there was a title error, the title insurance will protect us. We talked about homeowners insurance and how we get added as a loss payee. So if John's home burns down because of an electrical fire, we become the loss payee. It doesn't matter if he decides not to rebuild, the insurance payout will first come to us, not to John. And then on top of that, we have the personal guarantee. So if John lent or I lent to John's LLC, John LLC, and he decides to not pay from his LLC, I have a personal guarantee and I can come after him personally for those funds. So he cannot, just simply run away with my funds by dissolving his LLC or filing bankruptcy with his LLC. So that's the documents that we require to lend safely. Of course, there's more to fully underwriting, but how do we determine a safe amount to lend? Now, why is private money lending so safe in real estate, right? So we lend on a true value of something, right? Think about if I have a home that's $1 million and I decide to only lend you $500,000 on the home, for example, I have a 50% buffer to protect myself. Doesn't matter what happens if you don't fix up the property. If you run away and I have to foreclose, I can take that property. And do you think that I can sell that property with enough margin to protect myself? Even if I had to sell it at a fire sale, 20% off the market price, sell it for 800,000. Am I still covering my basis of 500,000? Yes, we will, right? So it's about lending to a safe value on a home. Obviously, making sure that finding the right value. There's a lot of underwriting and comping that goes into that, but we need to find the right value and then subtract any repairs or the future value minus repairs. There's a number of different ways to it. It really comes down to you determining your specific lend box and what you're comfortable with. And again, the power to choose, right? You get to choose exactly how you want to lend and what your safety margin in your comfortable zone is. So, and then beyond that, you can always include an extra buffer for foreclosures, for attorney costs, unpaid interest, you name it. You can reduce that from the amount that you lend just to keep yourself in a safer and more comfortable zone. And what you get with safety in that area is peace of mind. I can go to sleep at night knowing that doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if I invested in Tesla and Elon, dies one day and stock tanks, I would be in stress, right? But when I have a loan out on a property that I know I lent only 50% or much less than the actual value of, I can sleep at night very comfortably knowing that it doesn't matter if the investor doesn't pay me, I have recourse and I have power and the ability to recoup my investment and my return. So the other part of lending is also understanding lien positions, right? So when we go and buy a home, say I went out to purchase a primary home and I went to Chase for a mortgage. Chase would be in first position. They only lend in first position for primary homes for at least your initial payment. So doesn't matter what happens if I don't make a payment, Chase will come and foreclose and take my home and be able to sell it, and they will be the first one to get paid off. If I have a second position loan, let's use the case of a home equity line. A home equity line is typically used in second position behind a first position lender, and they will only get paid if the first position, let's use Chase in this example, gets paid off. So if I have a first position loan with Chase and then a home equity line through Bank of America, Chase gets paid off first if they ever needed to sell the home, and then Bank of America gets paid off after. So you can see the inherent difference in risk there. First position will always get paid. Now, there is the caveat that somebody always comes before anybody in all transactions, in all money matters, and that is the government. So if an investor doesn't pay their taxes, or doesn't do what they need to do for the government to satisfy that, the government trumps first position mortgages. But still, that said, your taxes are going to be much less than the value of your home itself. So first position is as safe as it gets. So always evaluate your total exposure and where your comfortability zone lies. Right. So how do we vet borrowers? There's a number of different things that we can do. Obviously, experience and track record is, speaks volumes. And there's a difference between lending to a mom and pop fix and flipper who has done, starting their first flip, versus somebody who has done thousands of flips in the past, right? Or an investor that has 100 million in real estate owned versus somebody who has no real estate experience or no rental properties. Um, so we definitely track experience. And then there's checking their credit, their background, um, and then protecting ourselves with our own entities, personal guarantees, checking their entities as well. And then the best borrowers don't really need your money, right? Oftentimes, investors that are coming to private money lenders, they're doing it to scale, because scaling is part of it is speed, and private money lenders are fast, or typically fast, much faster than any bank can be. Most banks take anywhere from 30 to 45 days to close on a loan. So if I'm an real estate investor and I'm trying to buy an asset, and I want to have be competitive with somebody else that's buying the property, I'm going to give an all cash offer, or say that, hey, I can close this deal in 10 days. No bank can close in 10 days, but private money lenders, we can, with the right setup. So just to sum up, protecting your money, always secure your loan with real estate and the proper collateral at the right values. Use insurance policies and title insurance policies to protect yourself there as well. And if necessary, you can also cross collateralize. So say, for example, I have John who wants to buy a home that's $1 million. He already has 90% loaned out from a hard money lender. If hard money lender is just a non-traditional lender, so it wouldn't be Chase or Wells Fargo, it would be another bank that specializes on fix and flip type loans. If they gave them 90% and they're asking you for the 10% of gap, it's not really safe to lend at beyond 90% loan to value on a single property. But if John also has another property that's free and clear worth $1 million, we can go and lend and cross collateralize on that property to secure our loan on the other one. So this way, not only do we secure ourselves with one property, now we have two properties to protect ourselves. So this is all great, Alvin, but where do I get the money to lend on this, right? So money is all around us. You may not know it, but you have a lot of access to capital, whether that be your solo 401k, your self-directed IRA, personal funds. A lot of people keep an emergency fund or savings in the bank account, but when you do things correctly, you can access all of your capital and put it to where you're secured and still be able to sleep safely, sleep comfortably, right? So home equity lines are a great untapped capital. If you've bought your home years and years ago, I'm sure you have tons of appreciation in your home. And when you have untapped capital or equity in your home, is that money really working for you? That money is just sitting there. Yes, you are gaining appreciation, but the actual money there is not being utilized. So if, let's say, you have $500,000 in equity in your home, that's $500,000 that could be being used in private money lending or other investment strategies to arbitrage that money. Even if you have to pull it out through a home equity line and pay 7% in interest, if you're netting 12% in your lending, then you have a 5% arbitrage, or that gap in your cost of capital. So then there's also life insurance policies. IULs and whole life policies are a great way to do the infinite money hack, infinite banking strategy as well. These are just some of the ways of doing it. There are numerous others as well, but I won't hop into that. That's not really the point of today's call. But other people's money, your family, and other things. So why do we leverage retirement accounts? Brett went through this, but they're tax advantaged. I love it. I love to save on taxes and not have to give that money to Uncle Sam, and rather it work for me instead. So, like Brett said, putting up to $77,000 as an individual, or over $140,000 as a married couple with the right income, you can utilize that 150K tax-free to grow your wealth and you know, accelerate your retirement or early retirement. So investing passively while compounding wealth, right? So you make those funds in your home equity line work for you and keep growing, and that nest egg will keep growing and growing and buy you back your time and freedom. So why does PML beat other investments? We've gone through this already, but you get to exactly dictate how much you get and what your return is, rather than letting the stock market dictate, hey, S&P 500 is going to go up 8% on average, but this year it's going to tank by 15%. If you like the stability of knowing exactly where your money is going to go and how much it's going to grow in a given amount of time, this is for you. This is like a CD on, certificate of deposit on steroids, right? Where a bank might give you 4%, you're going to get, three times, almost three times that, depending on your investment, as a private money lender, and you're secured by real assets. What you don't get in the stock market is security. You leverage 100% of your funds, and you're not guaranteed a return. With real estate lending, you are secured by your note, your deed of trust, insurance, lender's title policies. You have multiple insurance policies to protect your money, and all that gives you more control than Wall Street and a lot of other investing. So let's use a case study example. If I have a property value as is $200,000 in property value, it needs 50,000 in repairs to bring it to in its fully flip stage, whether putting in a bathroom, a new roof, whatever it is, $50,000. We would loan, let's say, $140,000 in first position, meaning that nobody is ahead of us. If for any reason the investor failed to perform, we could still, it's as is value right now on the market without being flipped is worth 200,000. If we were to go sell it on the market, even after realtors costs and other things, we are 100% guaranteed to get more than $140,000 back. And on top of that, we choose our return at 12% interest. We can pad in that safety margin into our loan amount. So if you added 12% to 140, let's ballpark around 160K. If I were to sell that 200,000 at a 20% discount, lose 40K, I can still sell this at 160,000 and protect my bottom line, right? And on top of that, you get monthly payments. What do monthly payments do for us? It helps us track progress, right? We know we don't have to wait until maturity for a note to balloon in order to know, hey, the project's not going well, right? If their monthly payment stops, then we know that their financial situation is not going well. So these are all things you can see in the case study. Risk mitigation strategy, we kind of went through this already, but obviously you want to prevent any borrower default. This all happens by a conservative loan to value ratio. You want to protect yourself from market downturn, also based on the loan to value ratio. Even if the market tanks 10%, as long as you're lending to much less than the actual as is value or a conservative value, you will be protected. There's a little typo here. But you also want to mitigate against fraud, right? So that's where the title and insurance documents come into play, and doing your due diligence. So financial freedom through private money lending, you'd be able to sleep at night, know exactly how much you're going to earn, and you become the bank and not the borrower. There is so much power to becoming the bank. So key takeaways: being conservative, getting the right documents, lending only on as is value, and using your retirement accounts to grow tax-free. Getting started today, I mean, there's numerous ways to get started. You learn, you can do your own homework, and network and start small. You can also partner with experienced lenders like myself that are out there doing this. I have well into the seven figures lent out, and having my money work for me and also other people's money. And the most important thing of all in anything, whether it's real estate investing, and getting your self-directed IRA started, is taking action. Take that step towards financial freedom and don't delay. Take action. So thank you for your time and listening to me. If anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, this is how you can reach me. That's my direct number, my email. You can scan the QR code and have all that populated into your phone as well. I'd love to open up the floor for questions and maybe anything that Brett or the team has for me. I cannot see the chat, so
I
Brett, if
got
you
you.
would just read them to me.
You got it. Yeah, we do have quite a few questions that came in while you were talking, so people were patiently
Awesome.
waiting. I think some of them were answered, but I'm going to cover them all anyway, just in case you want to add anything else.
Cool.
First question, V is asking how to actually start private money lending, which you just kind of recapped, but I don't know if you wanted to add any details to that or not. So,
Right. I mean, getting started is number one is you have to learn a little bit about it, right? So what I've given you is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to learn about, and obviously, you have to get in touch with lawyers, get in touch with the right people to execute all the right documents. But finding a good borrower or investor to trust is going to be crucial, and then having all the necessary players involved, your lawyer, your title company, and securing yourself that way. Uh, I'm not selling any services or anything like that, but getting with somebody that is already in your shoes, finding a mentor is really a great way to, you know, really get years and years of experience in a very short amount of time.
I'll even add uh, search your area for local meetups for real estate investors and private money lenders because they're in your market. I can pretty much guarantee you people are
Oh,
meeting
absolutely.
regularly and talking about this kind of stuff, and you can go be
Hmm.
part of that as well.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Great answer. Looks like Ellie is asking, what are the requirements to start private money lending? Along the same lines as what we kind of covered, but anything to add on that?
Um, I think the most important thing is to look internally at yourself, review your financial circumstances, and make sure that you're lending only what you're. I mean, we're secured, but you never want to lend more than you're willing to lose, and or be able to, delay a little bit if there are any delays to get back. So that's number one. But like I said, finding the right borrower, finding the right players involved to get yourself started and secured.
Yeah. Great. Tom has a few questions here, good ones though. First off, who decides and how is the interest rate determined on a PML?
uh, there's uh, there's two sides to a PML, right? The borrower and the investor or lender. So as the bank, you get to really decide what you want to lend at. It doesn't matter if you have John and Jay or whoever investor comes to you and says, "Hey, I'll give you, I want your money," but it's up to you to decide your rate. So if what they're offering is below what you're looking for, then you don't lend. So you really have full power to choose on what you lend on, given there is competition out there, right? Borrowers can go out to the bank or a hard money lender and get loans at a certain interest rate. We do come with a different sort of convenience and speed, so we do have the upper hand there. But it's always going to be a balance of supply and demand, right? So you have the supply, you control exactly how much you want to give and what you want to lend at. And I would say don't lend below a certain point, whatever your comfortable zone is.
Alvin, this is actually my question. Are there any usury type laws that people need to be aware of when doing private money loans?
Yes, 100%. Every single state has a different usury law, and some there are no limits, some there are limits. There are certain caveats to usury as well. If you're lending to a business on a business property versus personal property, there are different nuances that are involved. So definitely do your research before you go and lend. But if you're lending in a safe zone, I mean, if you're looking at your local hard money lenders and you're lending below at or below what they're doing, then you can pretty much ensure that you're safe.
Good
That's a
stuff.
key, quick and easy method.
Tom is also asking if the borrower defaults, who helps us go through the process of foreclosure?
That depends on if you're doing it by yourself or with somebody that is already in the game, or what they're doing for you, right? So for people that lend with me, there's different ways that I do things, but I handle all loans from start to finish. So it doesn't matter if they go to foreclosure or we need to start a lawsuit. I will handle all of that from point A to point B. If you're doing it on your own, even before you get a loan started, one of the first things that a mentor of mine said is that the first thing that you want to do is already have a foreclosure attorney lined up, know exactly who you're going to call when that first payment is late, and know how to start the process, how long it's going to take, and what steps you need to do to foreclose. So a foreclosure attorney is going to be your best bet.
Yeah, indeed. I'll add too that you could also use a servicing company to service the loan, and oftentimes they will actually do the foreclosure process for you. They
Yeah.
will eat in the, their fees will eat into the profits a little bit every time a payment is made. So just kind of do your due diligence on that. But yeah, with someone like Alvin who's got the experience, that might be the better way to go. All right. Thanks, Tom, for the question. Claudia is asking, I have a small quantity of funds from a distribution on a transaction. It's not enough to lend on real estate. Do you have resources on other types of secured investments?
So in real estate, there are numerous types of lending available. There are, transactional type lending. There are longer term lending. I don't know the exact dollar amount of how much you're dealing with, but typically if it's, you know, 5, 10 grand or higher, there are ways to get into investments with even just a couple $100. I'm not promoting the company, but fractional, if you've ever heard of fractional, is a way of literally getting fractional ownership or fractional parts of investing. I actually know the CEO, and it's a good way to get into things with a smaller dollar amount, but still have the same security. You would basically share your interest with other people. You basically join an LLC together and you all lend together. So there's power and ways to group your money with other people. Maybe you don't have all of it, but hey, maybe you have two other friends that want to lend with you. You can combine your funds and go do the same thing as a shared note or a shared, deed of trust.
All right, that's all the submitted questions we have. I'm going to ask a couple of my own, if that's okay, and try
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
put you in the spotlight here. So let's say there is a fractional situation, not through that company you were just talking about, but me and you and maybe another person or their retirement account, whatever. We all go in on a loan, and there is a foreclosure that occurs. How can we be sure that all three lenders are going to cooperate um, once the home is foreclosed on and bank owned, so to speak? How do we know for sure all three of those parties are going to cooperate with the actual sale of that house so that everyone can be made whole?
Really good question. And this comes down to almost like how do you get into business with people together, right? You really have to know who your partners are or have really strong agreements. In lending, there's something called an intercreditor agreement, which basically defines exactly what you're talking about. I'm with party A, B, and C. How much did each one contribute? How much of the proceeds go to each one? How costs are going to be spread? You can even add in voting rights or um, uh, force majeure type situations in there. And as long as you have the majority vote, then you can make things happen. So always consult with an attorney before getting into that. And that would be my number one thing.
Cool. All right. Thanks, man. See, I thought I was going to stump you, but nope, didn't do
No,
it. No, I didn't actually think that.
no,
Would you say, I have a few more I kind of want to cover too.
yeah.
You, let's see. Um, what would you say, like, if, because there's obviously people on here that haven't done this before, which is great.
Hmm.
We love educating. It's part of our goal here at Sense Financial, and for you too, which is why we align so well.
Yeah.
If there were like certain pitfalls or maybe a kind of a bullet pointed list of common mistakes that you would say for new private money lenders, do you have like some insight on that? What that might look like?
Absolutely. And now that you bring it up, that would have been a really good slide to add. But don't fall into shiny object syndrome, right? So, investors can promise you the world in terms of returns, and they won't be able to come through on it. So, stick to your principles, stick to your safety nets and your checklist. Make sure you go through all of your safety items before ever wiring any funds, make sure that you're checking all the right things. I can tell you there, wire fraud is a real one. A lot of people get scammed on wire fraud, but an investor can walk up to you and say, hey, I'm going to promise you 60% per year. And you can be like, wow, that's really good. But if you don't know anything about real estate or don't know where is this 60% coming from? If they're paying you 60%, that means they have to be making way more than 60 to even make it worth it for them, right? So you have to be able to underwrite the deal properly and make sure that you're lending to a safe value. So never undercut your own safety margin and your own safety precautions.
Yeah, great. One more too, I think. You kind of already covered this, but I guess let's talk about points a little bit and the structure. So if I wanted to loan somebody 50,000 and I want, I don't know, 12%, but I want that interest and principal returned to me in a balloon after 6 months, but I'm okay with getting a couple points up front to get started. Is that like not a structure that you would necessarily recommend? Because you mentioned those monthly payments being a barometer of how the person is doing financially, or what are your thoughts on something like that?
I like to have the monthly payments, but I have done balloon payments as well. It really depends on number one, the deal, right? And some deals and some borrowers have the liquidity to pay you those monthly returns. There are some types of projects that only pay at the end, right? But you want to make sure that they have something, and getting those monthly payments does help reduce essentially your principal or money left in the deal. But getting points up front, and that's money up front. Money now is always better than money later. So it's really a personal preference. You can you can negotiate with the borrower. If they don't want to have monthly payments, then hey, you pay me a few points up front, or maybe an extra point at the end, or you get a higher interest rate. There's numerous ways that you can get creative with it, right? And that's the true power. And the awesome thing about private money lending is we are not constricted by normal rules. We're not Chase that says, hey, you can only lend between 4 and 6%. You can lend at whatever rate and whatever term that you want, given usury laws and the legal side of things. But you can literally get as creative as you want. Hey, maybe you get a piece of equity instead of in lieu of a lower interest rate, or something of that nature. And this is more like, it can be both in your retirement account or outside, but it can be a way to wedge yourself into deals as an equity partner as well. So there's
Yeah,
numerous ways to operate.
that's great points. Thanks. Okay, I lied. One more. This is my brain working right now. But uh, would you not, Alvin, recommend, or personally, I should say, loan without a trust deed? So the reason I'm asking is because obviously the foreclosure process is completely different if there's no trust deed, right? You have a
Hmm.
judicial process, which
Hmm.
typically takes longer and is more expensive and such
Hmm.
than if you have notes secured by trust deed. So what are your thoughts on that? You kind of touched on it during the presentation, but not completely. So I'm curious.
So 100% the best way to do things is to always go through title and escrow and to have a recorded deed of trust. Like you said, that is your surefire way to get to foreclosure without having to go and sue and go through a different process to get to it. Um, when you have that recording with the county and the local state, that property cannot be sold without you. When you have a promissory note and that's the only document that you have, maybe a personal guarantee, if it's not if you have a document and it's not public knowledge, the investor can go and sell that without paying you off. So the highest level of security is recording your document. So if as a lender, and my preference would always be to have that recorded. Now, you
Gotcha.
can do it unrecorded, but this would have to be somebody that you really know well, or have some other way of protecting yourself, or they have so much of a reputation on the line that if they were to mess you up, that it just wouldn't pay them to ruin you for something that small. That's all. So,
Got it.
but 100% the safest way is to get it recorded.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps up. We'll give it another second here to see if anybody has any last second questions. Otherwise, Alvin, we here at Sense Financial more than appreciate you not only just being a client of ours, but also giving your precious time to help educate our audience. And um, and we're not affiliated outside of that, so I don't get anything from this. Alvin doesn't get anything from this. It's just purely to help people out. So really appreciate your time, and it looks like nobody else has any more questions. So I'll give you the last word.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Sense and to you, Brett, and your team. You guys have been the absolute best. And this is not to prop you up because you're having me here. It really is. I recommend you to, uh, you've already seen numerous referrals come from me because you guys have such good response and are so well versed on what you do that you've helped me to get to where I am and utilize my retirement the way that I want. And I just appreciate you having me on and being able to share.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you on the flip side. Appreciate your time.
Take care. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, everybody. See you guys.